Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the What Shara Made podcast. I hope you've all had a really good week and got a lot of crafting done, if that was your plan. Welcome back to returning viewers, and hello to new viewers. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I've got a few things to talk about. I've got a couple of FOs. You may recognise one that I'm wearing. I've got a couple of whips and even an acquisition. It's only vaguely yarny though. I will get straight into it. I'll start with my whips. You might remember from last week I had begun knitting a pair of gloves with the Volmizer yarn that was left over from my doodler shawl. And if you've watched previous episodes, you'll know that I often talk about how much I love knitting gloves, and I have a really bad habit of thinking of all these ideas for gloves, and I'll knit one, but I won't write down what I've done because I think I'll remember that. It's so easy, I'll definitely remember it. And obviously, we all know those are famous last words of very forgetful people, like me. So I have quite a collection of single gloves that are fabulous, but don't have a partner, and I will have to reverse engineer my own design to write the pattern out, which is just so silly, but that's what I have a bad habit of doing. So this time, when I made this glove from a pattern in my head, I wrote everything down as I did it, so I should be able to make a second glove without too much trouble. Now this it's a whip because there's only one of them. Well, it's a half finished object, I guess, but I also haven't woven in the ends on this, but it's alright. So let me show you. Just removing some rosy hairs that she's donated to the knitting as usual. So this is my glove. I love the way there's this pooling here of these Volmizer colours. So nice. And there's a little bit of detail on there on the ribbing, just for a bit of interest, but they're still plain enough. Now these aren't knit for my size. They're actually a little bit bigger than for me because I'm going to give these to someone else as a gift. So you'll see there. So there's a bit of room on the fingers there, but that's the glove with that little detail on the top, and it's just a regular old palm down here and rosy hair. Lucky the person that they're going to as a gift also has a white dog, so they're quite familiar with the dog hair situation. So there we go. I really enjoyed knitting this. Didn't take very long. And I'm really looking forward to making its little partner. And knitting gloves with fingers like this is sometimes, I often see people steer away from them because they think, oh, that's way too hard, I won't be able to do it. But once you get into it, it's actually really easy. There's nothing scary or complicated about knitting a glove with fingers. It can be a little bit fiddly at times, and you do have to have a bit of extra patience, but that's about it. There's nothing complicated about knitting gloves with fingers. If you can knit a sock, you can knit a pair of gloves with fingers easily. So that is my single glove, hopefully soon to have a partner in the not too distant future. And that's using the Volmizer sock yarn. Well, it's the wool nylon blend, so you could use it as a sock yarn, but it's not strictly a sock yarn, obviously. So you'll see the dark pooling on the palm of the hand matches the light pooling on the front of the hand. Just pretty cool. I really enjoyed the way this yarn knits up. And that's living in this odd little project bag that I got with the Knit Picks order a little while ago. And my next whip is pretty exciting. I've been wanting to make this ever since the pattern was released. And initially I thought one day, when I'm retired, I'll try that because it looks super complicated. But I had the yarn for it. It's all stash yarn. I thought I'll give it a go because I couldn't stop thinking about it recently, and I'd seen a few others pop up on Instagram, and I thought I'm just going to start it. I'll see how I go. If I start it and it's too complicated, no big deal. Doesn't matter. I can use the yarn for something else. But when I started it, it's actually nowhere near as complicated as I thought. You do need to concentrate on it pretty strictly. It's not something you could do at midnight or while you're trying to watch something with subtitles, for example, or trying to chat to someone. You need to be able to concentrate on this pretty strictly. So it's the Fox Paws pattern by Zandy Peters, who is a knitwear design genius. Here we go. So this is my Fox Paws so far. I'm only up to the third colour repeat. It's so pretty. Oh my god, I love it so much. At first I wasn't quite sure about the colours. They're not really in my colour scheme, but now I love it. I love it. It's so beautiful. Oh, I just love it so much. How cool is it? Oh, so clever. Now, there's a rest row after each crazy row, so that helps with it. And then of course you've got these sections of plain stockinette chevrons, which are a breeze. And there's only one or two of the crazy rows, these rows that make these shapes, that are not tricky, but that you've super duper got to concentrate on. The others, you just, once you've read the repeat, you're just like, yeah, got it, you can go. But probably, if you decide to make one too, or if you've already made one, you'd be familiar with this, row 4 is taxing. But in a good way. I haven't at any stage thought, this is crazy, I'm giving up, nothing like that. But on the first repeat, I made some sort of weird error on row 4 and had to unpick it, and that's not an easy row to unpick, but no big deal, got it. And I tried going back to where I thought the error was, and the error was all minor, nothing to do with the pattern, and I unpicked it and redid it, unpicked it, redid it, unpicked it, redid it about 7 times. Like, what an idiot. I should have just done what I ended up doing, which was unpick back to the stockinette section, because it was really easy to just whip my needles out and pick up on that section before unravelling all the other rows, and then just start that repeat again. That was the easiest thing to do. Eventually I got it and moved on to the next repeat, and wouldn't you know it, after row 4 I had made some other type of error and had to root that back as well. But this time I learnt from my previous lesson and just unpicked back to the stockinette section and went for it. And I'd just done it again. So I think I need to spend a bit more time concentrating on row 4. It all seems to go wrong in row 4. There is definitely nothing wrong with the pattern in row 4. It's all me. But I am really, really enjoying this. Oh God, I love it so much. It's going to be it's about 42 centimetres wide, and which is about 17 inches wide. And it's going to be like a stole or a wrap. I'm really enjoying it. This was the pattern that I initially thought I might enter into the local show, the local agricultural fair, I don't know what you call it, later this year. So I thought I should start it now, just in case it takes me that long to finish it. It may take me that long to finish it. It doesn't necessarily fit in with the theme of this year's show, but it's not compulsory to fit your project in with the theme. But I think if I enter this into the show, it will definitely have to come home with a blue ribbon on it. Fingers crossed. And the yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks palette, which is a fingering weight pure wool, and it's really lovely. I've made a lot of things using this yarn, and it's a real joy to work with. It's very loosely plied. I don't know if this is going to be apparent on the screen, but it's quite loosely plied. It's almost got a bit of a hand spun quality about it. So I did notice on the reviews for this yarn that some people haven't liked that loose ply and have found it easy to split the yarn and things like that, but I've not experienced that issue so far, and I have used it a lot. I'm really really enjoying this project a lot. Every time I'm doing something else, I'm just thinking, oh, hurry up and finish so I can get back to my fox paws. So that's been good. It's quite popcorny. Love it. All right, that's enough about that. Now I should probably get on to finished objects. You'll notice I'm wearing one of my finished objects, which is my Exploration Station Shawl by Stephen West. Now let me take it off so I can give you a full view. I love this pattern and I love the finished project, and I really can't wait to start another one. And the lovely Eric from the Sticks Plus Twine podcast is actually having an Exploration Station knit along in his podcast group on Ravelry, and I think I might join and make another one. I've got plenty of yarn to choose from, and I might even use the yarn that I initially had selected for my doodler, and then at the last second changed my mind. So I've still got that yarn all gathered together in a bag, and I think I might use it. I might use that yarn and make it as a present. Or maybe I'll keep it myself, I don't know. I'll see how it turns out, but I really love this pattern. If you're brave, dive straight in and give it a go. It's not scary and you'll learn several new techniques, I think. But let me just hold this. Oh, it's not going to show in the screen. I'm actually sitting on the floor, so sorry about that. Let's see. And it's actually bigger than my wingspan, and my wingspan's about 150 centimetres, which is about 5 feet. Only little. So it's bigger than my wingspan, which is pretty cool. So you've got these short row sections at the top here, which is pretty awesome. I love it. Hello there. And then you've got the brioche section, which is really cool. You can see the reverse side of the brioche there. And don't be scared of brioche. It really isn't complicated. And the designer of this pattern, Stephen West, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, has got some really good videos on YouTube that are linked in this pattern to show you how to do pretty much all the techniques in this pattern, so you won't be lost. And then there's a slip stitch section like that. Then there was the stripes, and then the gorgeous chevron lace border, which was a real joy to knit actually. And the yarn that I've used is Yarn Stories from Etsy, and it's 100% pure linen yarn, and it's listed as a fingering weight yarn, but it's a very fine fingering weight yarn. It's probably not quite a low suede, but it's definitely not a fingering weight yarn, maybe halfway between the two. And it's not the easiest yarn to knit with. It's not like knitting with wool where you can just zoom along, click, 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 with your knitting. You do sort of have to pay a bit more attention. It's a little bit slow going, but it's 100% worth it because it is gorgeous. I wish you could feel this because it's such a lovely texture, and it's a perfect light shawl for the weather we're having at the moment. And I'm just loving it. I absolutely adore this. And I never would have thought that I would use these colours in a shawl altogether, but I've got a big box of this linen in all different colours. I sort of went a bit crazy when I bought it, and when there was a little bit of a mix-up with my order, I also ended up with extra yarn that I hadn't initially bought. So I had all this yarn and I didn't know what I was going to do with it, and I just sort of went through the box and picked out some colours and put them together and thought, you know what, they look pretty nice together, and went for it. But that wasn't initially my plan for that yarn. So there we have the Exploration Station shawl, and I'm really keen to knit another one ASAP. I wonder if I can, maybe I'll just drape it around my shoulders. It's probably a bit hard to try and get it back on properly, how I had it earlier. And excuse me while I have a sip of tea. Today's mug is my Marimekko squirrel mug. It's one of my favourites. It is so cute. Look at him. I love squirrels anyway, but I also love this sort of design. This Scandinavian sort of retro-esque design. It's right up my alley. And today I'm drinking some classic Chinese green tea with jasmine, and it's beautiful. Oh god, it's so nice. Yum. Sorry for that little tea interlude. Now, on the theme of my gloves, I've spoken about gloves a bit on the podcast, and I really enjoy knitting gloves. I've got some of the gloves that I've knit for myself here to show you. And these are obviously all old finished objects, but that's okay. This pair here from my own design, and you'll see they're a little bit ratty because I've had these for about 5 or 6 years, and they used to be my only pair of gloves with fingers, so I wore them all the time. Now, you can see, you might recognise the yarn. It is Noro Korean sock yarn, which I don't think they make anymore, but which is a shame because it was really cool. So it's got lots of different colour changes in it, so the gloves don't really match. They're in the same colour family, but they don't really match, which is just fine with me. I really like them. And as you can probably see, these gloves are knit sideways, and they're actually knit on straight needles. They're not knit in the round, and this is a pattern that I've designed, and it's free on my blog, and I'll link it in the show notes so you can find it easily. And it's, you knit back and forth, up and down on these, and then you make two, obviously, two pieces, and then seam them together. and you have a glove. So that's these ones. I really love them. Really warm and cozy, and these guys have been all around the world with me. They've done a fair amount of travelling. I love them. And one day, on my way back from a party, I'd been wearing these, and I was walking home. This is a few years ago now, and walking up my road, I somehow, on my way home from the party, I lost one of these gloves, and I was devastated in the morning when I realised that I'd lost one of these gloves, and I thought, well, that's it. I'll never find it again. It's lost forever. I was really annoyed with myself, and I'd totally given up on it, and it was pouring with rain that day, so I knew that somewhere was my little lost glove getting soaked by the rain, probably been, covered in mud and maybe even run over by a car. I was quite sad about it. About a week later, I was heading into town just to do some errands, and I walked past something on the road, and I thought, hang on a second, what was that? And I doubled back, had a look. It was my little glove just sitting there by itself, squished on the road, all dirty and soaking wet. And I refound it, gave it a wash. It's all good. My pair was reunited. So there's a funny little story about lost gloves and found gloves. So they've been through a lot, these gloves. They're pretty special. And with this next pair of gloves, I actually don't know what this yarn is, because I got it in a mystery grab bag from the Holland Road Yarn Company, which is a New Zealand yarn company. And I think it didn't have a label on it or anything like that. But I think what I figured out is that it's their shop brand that they hand dye, and it's really nice. It's a fingering weight yarn, of course, as most of my gloves are. So it's these ones. They look a bit funny without hands in them, so let me model this for you. There's the palm, and there's the front, and it's got glass beads on it, and they weren't hard to incorporate into the pattern at all. I pre-strung them on the yarn. That was probably the hardest bit about the whole project. And I've done a little picot folded hem on the cuff, which is probably my favourite cuff for gloves. I think it's very smart. Gives a bit of a vintage look to them. And I want to say these are my favourite pair of gloves, but I think all my gloves are my favourite pair of gloves. I love them all. Really love these. The colour is so pretty. It's actually coming up a little brighter on the screen than it is in real life, but I'm sure you can imagine it. And so there's I just love these so much, and the beads are actually really nice to just play with while you, standing around at the bus stop, or standing around at an outdoor party or something like that. They're really nice to play with, because the beads also touch the back of your hand inside, so the cold glass of the beads is, I don't know, it gives a really nice feeling on your hand. I love it. So I really love these gloves, and I love this short little cuff with the little picot edge. I think it gives them a nice little vintage feel. So I seriously love these gloves. They're favourites. You might notice there's a little bit of, I don't know if this is going to be obvious, but it's a little bit of bit short on this thing here. It's a bit of a webbed thumb here. That is because I have gotten wet in the rain whilst wearing these, and gloves felt very easily because they've got the heat from your hand, and if you get caught in the rain like I did, the heat from your hand, and your hand just generally has friction anyway, unless you're just walking around like that, which you're not. You're probably holding onto an umbrella or trying to get to shelter or whatever, and they felt really easily. I have felted several pairs of gloves, like getting caught in the rain pushing a stroller, that all felt gloves. Getting caught in the rain at the football, that all felt gloves. Just generally walking in the rain from the bus stop, that all felt gloves because you're holding a bag or whatever. So the thumb on this has felted a little bit, and it's a bit too short, and so it creates this webbed finger. But never mind, they're still perfectly fine to wear. But that's life, isn't it? I love them so much. I've actually got another pair of gloves here that I really, really adore. I'll only put one on for now, but this one here, wait, let me get that expiration station off. This one here, it's a little pattern on the top of the hand, which is inspired by vintage gloves from yesteryear, and this fluffy cuff, and it can actually be rolled up a little bit too to make it a bit more of a vintage style. But if it's really, really cold, I will wear these gloves because this fluffy cuff meets up with your coat sleeve and sort of blocks it right off, so freezing wind can't get up your sleeve. I presume that was the theory behind having furry cuffs on gloves initially, not just for the looks. And of course this isn't real animal fur. It's it's either a James C. Brett or King Cole yarn, and they don't make it anymore, which is really sad because it's the best faux fur yarn I've found. And I've got about half a ball left after making these, and I'm like saving it for special because it can't be bought again. But I just love it so much. And the yarn that I've used for these is a Louisa Harding one called, I think it's called Oriel. I could be mistaken, but I'll list it in the show notes so you can see. And it's a alpaca wool blend, whatever it is, it's beautiful. It's listed as a DK, but I've used the same pattern for this glove as I do for my fingering light gloves, and it's just fine, totally fine. It's a very, very light DK. It's probably more like a sports weight if I do a wraps per inch check on it. And it's got a little bit of gold stellina in it, which is beautiful. I don't know if it's showing up. It probably just looks like dog hair on my gloves, but anyway, in real life it's quite sparkly and it's very nice. You can see the detail on the top there. So I love these gloves so much, and I get so many compliments about them when I'm out and about. People always want to know where I bought them, and of course I have to say, oh, I made them, so you can't have them. I'm thinking I might make another pair like this with a red yarn here and maybe a brown furry cuff, using the same yarn that I told you I used to knit my faux fur pom-poms or beanies. I think that could look quite smart as well. So there, my whips and my finished objects, some new, some old. And now I've got a little acquisition. I haven't purchased, let me think. I definitely haven't purchased any yarn in February. So that's pretty good. And everything that I have showed you today, finished objects and whip wise, is completely using stashed yarn. So that's great. And once they become finished objects, they can all go in the finished objects thread for the year-long craft along. Stash busting craft along. that's going on in my Ravelry group. So if you want to pop on over to the Ravelry group, the link is in the down bar here on YouTube. You'll be able to find the FO thread for the year-long stash busting craft along, and you can win prizes in that thread. So join in. It's great encouragement to use up all the beautiful yarns in this stash, and it's good. So let me show you my acquisition for this episode. It's not yarn, but it is somewhat yarn related, and it's made out of wool. So it's this beautiful fabric bucket, and it's so cute. Bit of fluff on it, and it's got a little pocket here for your bits, and it's lined in denim, and it's from the very clever Chooktopia. And for people outside Australia, you might be wondering what that is, Chooktopia. A chook is I'm pretty sure it's Australian, and people overseas don't use this word, but a chook is a chicken, like a hen. So that's what Australians call hens, chooks. It's a pretty cool word. I love it. Sometimes I call the kids chook or chookie, because it's cute. And sometimes they like it when I call them chookie, but other times they're like, don't call me chookie. Never mind. So this is Chooktopia. You can find Chooktopia on Instagram under the name Chooktopia. I'll put a link. I'll write it in my show notes so that you can find it again. She's really clever, and she's local to me. Well, somewhat local. She lives on the other side of the city, but yeah, it's very clever, and I love this. It's made from an old blanket, and those blankets just remind me of my childhood. We had blankets like that when I was little, and it reminds me of having friends over to stay and having sleepovers. Love it a lot. And because Chooktopia is so lovely, she had put in a special little gift, a surprise for me in the packet, and she must know me well because it's right up my alley. I don't know if you can tell what this is, but they're hair ties. Am I going to be able to get this? See? The hair elastic with a beautiful fabric covered button on it that she has covered herself. And the colours are right up my alley, and I love wearing my hair in pigtails, so it's perfect. Thank you so much, Chooktopia. I was so pleased to spot this blanket bucket on Instagram as soon as you put it up. I think it had been up for about 3 seconds when I commented on it and said, yes, please, I want that. So that was lucky. I love it. So I've been using it as like a yarn bowl. Keep my yarn in and work from it. Stop my yarn racing away or getting completely covered in dog hair. So that's all I have work-wise for this episode. I almost didn't film this week because you'll notice it's a day later than usual. I unexpectedly had 2 kids home from school yesterday here, and there's just no way you can film a podcast with children in the house unless you want the kids to also be in the podcast, but never mind. But I've got the house to myself today, so I decided to film while I could. And hopefully by next week's episode I'll have a bit more of the fox paws to show you. I'm planning on spending the afternoon working on that. Hopefully I can get past row 4 of the repeat without having to redo it. I only want to do row 4 once from now on per repeat, but we'll see. If you are unfamiliar with Zandy Peters, who is the designer of the Fox Paws wrap, you should definitely check her out on Ravelry. I'll put a link in the show notes so that she's easy to find, but boy, what a talent. She is so clever. I've got no idea how she comes up with her designs, but she's brilliant. And the pattern's really well written. There's no guessing involved. And she also has YouTube tutorials, and she's got a few free little patterns where you can try out the stacked increases and decreases that form these patterns. So you can try it out and see if it's something you think you'll be able to do and enjoy before you go ahead and buy the patterns, which is really good. I like that. I tried one of her free patterns and it was a breeze. So easy to do. I'm thinking of all sorts of ideas with this pattern of what I can make rather than just a wrap in the future. And I'm thinking about if I can incorporate it into a hat. I would really like that as a hat. I think that would be pretty cool. And I could see it also making a pretty groovy skirt for winter. I think that it'd make a really cool skirt. Might take a bit of experimenting with the shaping, but I don't see it being too big a deal. I think it could definitely be done, but we'll see. I think that would just make such a groovy skirt. Anyway, I think that's all from me this week. I should probably pop in a little weather report because I haven't done one for a couple of weeks before I go. The weather this week has been really mild and even a little rainy, but not heavy rain, just light showers, and I have been loving it. It's meant that I've got a lot done knitting wise because I'm not hot and sweaty, and the weather's just been beautiful, and today it's glorious sunshine, but it's not hot, and I think I'm going to go and sit on the veranda and enjoy working on my Fox Paws wrap. So I hope you have a lovely week. I'll see you again next week. Enjoy your weekend if this is your weekend, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.